Welcome to Straight from the Source. Our guest today is Richard Gallardo, who's running for Shasta County Supervisor for District 1. Welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for the invitation.
So, Richard, this would be the first time you've held political office, correct?
This would be the first time, yes.
So
I ran before.
You ran before.
County Office for Education.
Okay.
And I got almost 13,000 votes. It's a different voting base this time. Now I'm in the more left-leaning district of the county.
Okay.
So it's a different voting base, but yeah, I ran for County Office for Education, and the reason I'm not running for that again is my son's almost out of high school, and I was really in the school fight before.
Yeah.
And, so he's almost done with that, and so now I'm like, well, I'm going to shift over to the county side of things because I've been really active on the county politics side since about 2020, since COVID.
And let's talk a little bit about that. What made you first decide to get involved in what was going on at the county level?
Again, it was the COVID fight.
Yeah.
It was what I believe were unlawful, unconstitutional mandates and lockdowns and business closures, and it was horrible for all of us. And so I got involved with another large patriotic group, and we actually started a recall. It was called Recall Shasta. I was part of that, and because we just wanted some autonomy, some local control and autonomy to make our own decisions, regarding a cold virus, for goodness sakes.
Yeah. Can we talk more about that? I'd just be really interested to hear about like the successes of that or what you accomplished with the group. I can't remember, was this the red, white, and blueprint? Were you involved in that? No. What was the name of your group?
No, that's the confusion that is very common today, as you just noted. Red, white, and blueprint was a private docuseries that was created to document the recall, but two separate entities.
Got it. Okay. So then this group, were you part of the organization of the group?
Yes.
And what were some of the priorities and what was accomplished?
Well, the priorities, again, were the current board at the time were not fighting against the state. They were just saying, let's just do what we're told, stay under the radar, because they were worried, in my opinion, about getting money from the state, right, grant funding and all that stuff. I think they were afraid of that, but but the people rose up, and we started a recall against 3 supervisors, and we had to get Leonard Modi because we knew he was controlling everything. And the other 2, we got several thousand signatures on the other 2, but just not quite enough. So we did what we needed to do, and we got rid of the person who we believe was leading the entire board and the county in general, to not fight for our local sovereignty and local choices.
It is what you said, the idea that maybe that the county leaders at the time, regardless as to how they actually felt when it came to right and wrong or whatnot, but the bottom line is money is on the line, right? When the state gives a mandate or the federal government and you're hoping to get grant money from them to bring services to the local people, they think that probably county leaders feel torn, well, if we do this, then what does it mean for that? Yeah. How would you have handled that differently without putting, your constituents at risk of losing programs that are important to them?
Well, again, that was a supposition that maybe the funding would be jeopardized. A supposition, maybe an assumption by some. But for me, the money should not change our adherence to our principles and values, our sovereignty, our local control, our adherence to the Constitution and all the amendments and those values. Money, yes, politics and money makes the world go round. I get it, but you can't give up your values. You either have them or you don't.
Yeah.
And if you give them up for money, well, now you don't have that value. You're compromised.
What is, in this time that you've spent organizing a campaign and putting yourself out there, what have you heard back from constituents? Have you done any of the door-to-door stuff? What are you hearing from the people of District 1?
I'm hearing a lot of people are getting really wary of status quo establishment because that's really what's gotten us to the point where we're at, and following and just doing what we're told by the state and the feds. And this kind of segues into why we're doing Measure B. Full disclosure, I am a proponent of Measure B. I'm part of the team that organized it and did the signatures and the filings and everything else. But this, this goes back to we want to govern ourselves as best as we can, and so hence Measure B, right? And we'll get into that a little more later because there are some very specific things that need to be spoken about. And if I could if I could say I'm running because I don't believe Kevin Cry should be there anymore. I did support him in the past. I voted for him when he first ran. I supported him during his recall. I even put up his signs. I like the man, and I think he's a good man, but he's made some very misguided votes. And I think he's misguided because of his lack of adherence to his morals and ethics, and he's got very bad legal advice from county council. But doesn't change the fact he's made some really bad votes. And if he hadn't made 2 really bad votes, I would not be sitting here today. And those votes were that they tried to stop Measure B even before it was printed, for gosh sakes. They voted, the board voted to allow the attorney, county council, to not write title and summary. Now the county and excuse me, Kevin will say, well, he didn't vote, he didn't sue the board. No, but you voted to allow your attorney to, to sue Shasta 5. So in essence, he did sue us because he could have voted to tell the attorney, no, you will write title and summary. The law is very clear. And the second issue that he did, well, there was a few, but the next big one was when they voted to install the license plate reader cameras. And they used OGFire money, $500,000. And again, so the board, right, they're the legislative body, the executive body, and they're quasi-judicial. Very powerful positions, extremely powerful. Because in a state elected office and a federal elected office, there's the check and balances, the separation of powers, equal but separate powers. In local government, that does not exist. So they're the executive and the legislative. And so they can make laws as the executive or as the legislative body via ordinance, and then they can execute them as the executive. And that's kind of scary, honestly, in a constitutional republic to think that so few people have so much power. But that's the way it is in California. Yeah. And so that very powerful position, you have to have somebody in that position that is solid with their morals and ethics, their fiscal, how they want things done fiscally, because they're going to be out of office, right? We're all going to be here and then we're all gone. And our kids and grandkids are going to deal with what we left behind. And that is my thing, right? My son, I have to leave him a better place than I inherited. And I've been very solid over the last 6 years. I've been staunchly in one line, and I have not compromised my values. And those are the 2 largest reasons that unfortunately Kevin needs to go. He never apologized publicly for those bad votes. Privately, he's called some people and apologized, but that does nothing because the public still sees that he's for those votes, even though they were bad. And in fact, he's doubled down on his reasoning for those votes. He said, well, I voted with the information I had at the time, or that was the county council's advice at the time. But he's not saying, yeah, those were bad decisions and we need to undo them. I get the problem, I really do. If you publicly say I messed up and then you change things, well, now your opposition has got ammunition, political ammunition. Of course they do, I get it. But you still have to do the right thing. Because at the end of the night, when you put your head down on your pillow, for me, I need to know that when at the end of the day, my honor, my integrity are intact.
So when you talk about recommendations coming from county council in regards to, say, Measure B, for example, do you take issue with something specific that county council recommended that you can explain?
Well, the county council wanted to not write the title and summary for Measure B.
Because it would make it seem like the county supported it, essentially, if he was responsible?
He was saying it's unethical to write a title and summary for a measure that it was in contradiction to state law, where parts of the measure...
It would put the county as supporting something that he thought could violate state election code.
That's not, no.
No.
That's not supporting at all. That's just writing title and summary.
But was that his argument?
In fact, it's an impartial title and summary by state law. So there is no supporting or not supporting the
Right.
measure just because he writes title and summary. It's
But
actually
what was
reads
his
impartial.
reasoning for not wanting to do it?
Again, because he wanted to tell the judge it's unethical to write a title and summary for a measure that it had bullet points, and some of those bullet points were in direct contradiction to
Yeah.
state law. That was it.
Yeah.
That was it. And I watched your interview with Clint Curtis the other day. Excellent, by the way. He did very well giving examples. So for the listeners and the watchers, go back and watch Clint Curtis's interview that I think you just posted a couple of days ago. And he gives very good examples, and I'm not going to repeat it because of time. Gives very good examples of why the citizen-led initiative process is extremely important. And you file an initiative because there's something that you want to change. That's the point. And that's the beauty of the initiative process.
And so when it comes to Measure B, because I know you were a part of basically drafting it, right?
I assisted with drafting it, but I'm one of the 5 proponents, which is, proponent is the name of the people that formally want to bring something forward.
Yeah. So let's first talk about the different stipulations within it, like what it would achieve and why, and what your goals are with it.
Well, and again, in the interest of time, I'd like to just briefly summarize Measure B because there's a lot of other things that I'd like to talk about for running for Board of Supervisor. But Measure B is a big one. Yes, it is. And I don't have the list in front of me. There are about 15 to 16 bullet points in there. But we want voter ID. We want paper ballots. We want same-day counting at the precincts. We want local control over the voter rolls to be able to clean those. Let's say we want, instead of 100% mail-out ballots, we would like to return to what are called requested absentee ballots, so people can still get them, right? But just not the 100%. And those are like the 5 big things. Those are then there's many others, more administrative stuff. But in the city of Huntington Beach, they did a citizen measure a couple years ago now, and the state sued them. During the lawsuit, it was not illegal to have voter ID, but the state passed a law during the lawsuit, Senate Bill 1174, that then made it illegal to have voter ID. So, so go figure there. And that's on that list that I gave you. The state fights against local governance all the time. And I'm not sure if you'll follow up with this or not, but I gave you a list of 13 bills just since 2020. Well, one of them is from 2017 regarding concealed weapons on school campuses, and I was involved in that one. But the state continually retaliates against local jurisdictions when they do something at the local level for local control, and when the state doesn't like it, either the state sues or what the list you have are actual bills that are then passed. And a lot of them are passed as urgency statutes because there's some kind of an emergency. Well, of course, there's not. They just want to put it into effect quickly. And so we have to fight. The whole point of Measure B is because we believe, humbly, that there are a lot of problems with our election systems and processes, and we need to tighten them up. What we want is a fair and transparent election. That's it, transparent. Meaning everybody gets to watch and everybody gets to see and everybody gets to ask questions and they all get to have answers to those questions. And it bewilders me today as why some people don't want a fair and transparent election, honestly.
Well, right now, without Measure B in place and things just proceeding the way that they are for the June primary, you've made it clear that you are supportive of Clint Curtis, who's the current registrar of voters and clerk. Yeah. Do you have confidence that this is going to be a fair and transparent June primary?
As far as I can see, what he did this last cycle with the cameras and the seals and the chain of custody on the documents, I was actually a part-time worker in there. I got background checked so I could actually touch ballots. And I thought from what he had done in such a short amount of time was great.
Yeah.
It was really good. Now, I don't know if there's any additional changes coming for June, but I would think anything that he may put in addition to are probably going to be towards a fair and transparent election. And that's all we want. Okay.
You said there are, of course, many other reasons besides election security that you decided to step up and run for District 1. What are your top priorities?
Well, if I could say something first before that, after Kevin made some decisions that I was not happy with. I was always corresponding with Kevin, email, in person, texting, whatever. And, so we would always have this correspondence back and forth on a multitude of issues. And most of the time while we were corresponding, and I'm not the smartest person in the world, but I really value my constitutional knowledge and I try to share all that. He really wasn't taking anything into account. And then eventually the election thing came up, and I had a meeting with Kevin Cry and Joe Larmore, who's the county council, approximately October of 2025 or so. No, sorry, this was a separate meeting. This one was just before Measure B went to title and summary. So this would have been early 2025. And Kevin called for a meeting between Joe Larmore County Council, myself, and another citizen task force measure, a private group, okay, private election task force. And we had a meeting, and Joe Larmore kept telling me, "Hey, Rich, this part of the measure is illegal. This part is right." And he went, I'm like, I already know all that, Joe. That's why we're doing this. Again, we don't like the laws that are in place. We're trying to change them. And Kevin Cry looks over at Joe Larmore and says, "So Joe, what are the odds that that this measure makes it to a ballot?" And Joe Larmore, without hesitation, says this measure has 0 chances of making it to a ballot. He didn't even hesitate, almost like it was a scripted question and answer. And I'm like, well, I guess we're done here. So we left. 2 weeks later, they sued us. They, being the board and Joe Larmore, sued us to try to stop title and summary. And if we didn't get a title and summary, guess what? There would be no measure, because the title and summary has to be printed on the measure. And so that kind of made me a little unhappy, as you might guess. Well, not long after, later in 2025, I called a meeting with Kevin. I said, "Kevin, I'm unhappy with you for many different reasons. I want a meeting with you. And the purpose of this meeting is for you to tell me why not to run against you." Have you ever heard of that? Pretty rare, huh? If ever.
Yeah.
And then Kevin says, "Well, can we have some witnesses?" Sure. It was his idea. Great. In fact, I'm glad he did that. So we came up with 2 names, and we agreed on it. Yep, both good, solid folks, respected folks. And they said nothing. They were just there to be witnesses. Hour and 15 minutes later, I said, "Well, sorry, Kev, it didn't work. I'm running against you." So I don't know how many times in my correspondence with Kevin, I've tried to give an out, right? I mean, I would love to be a supervisor now because there's so many things to fix. But back then, I thought Kevin was okay. But then after those bad decisions, I thought, our founding fathers, they've said, every little incremental violation into the Constitution and our rights and sovereignty and everything else, you start, all the little things that trickle in, they eventually become big things. And so, unfortunately, we're where we're at now. The state of California does a great job taking our rights, our sovereignty, our local control, taking money out of our pockets via fees and taxes and regulation. They do a great job of that. Heck, our firearms rights, are you kidding me? Our Second Amendment rights. We don't need local elected officials jumping on board with the state. The local officials, at a minimum, should be keeping the state at bay, at a minimum. At a maximum, they should be fighting against the state. And when the County Board of Supervisors voted a couple years ago now to get rid of the Dominion voting machines with the full intent of hand counting, remember I told you that's on this list, I told you, the state introduces and passes AB 969.
I remember that.
Which then prohibited hand counting.
Right.
Again, direct retaliation against Shasta County. In fact, one of the committee reports of AB 969, you can read all the committee reports. One of those reports, Shasta County, is mentioned, I believe, 125 times. And then people are saying, no, this wasn't against Shasta County. Well, then why are we in this report 125 times? And Kevin was asked by other board members, hey, well, what do you think? We should fight 969. They should have fought it before it even passed. They should have fought it as soon as it went into bill status, right? For an injunction, preliminary injunction, whatever, right? All kinds of things, stays, all kinds of stuff. Nope, Kevin didn't want to do it. And I'm like, it's the elections. It is like the most basic, fundamental right that citizens have. and the state wants to take it away. For 174 years, Haley, we could hand count in the state of California. 174. All of a sudden, when Shasta County wants to hand count, the state gives us the political finger and says, nope, you don't get to hand count. Are you kidding me? We should have fought that by ourselves if we had to, but we could have gotten many other counties on board to fight that.
Did you ever hear any sort of reasoning as to why the county may not have chosen not to fight back against that?
I have not.
I mean, the thing that always comes to mind for me is money, right?
Sure.
Always money.
Sure.
What would it cost? What if we were to get
Sure.
sued for whatever Measure B? What would that cost?
Yep.
What money could we lose if we went against the state? Do you think that part of the challenge of being a supervisor would be at the county level that your hands could be tied too?
Well, again, the money thing is important. Last I checked, this was 3.5 years ago when Tim Garman was a supervisor, we were spending 14 to 18 million a year on lawsuits, approximately. But I mean, at what point, what is a fair and transparent election worth? I mean, can we put a dollar amount on it? Yeah, practically we should put a dollar amount on something. But then, you know, the Board of Supervisors, they fought the state against the Bernie windmill project. Remember that?
Yeah.
Our county
yeah.
our local planning commission
Yeah.
voted against it, and the state overrode them by passing 2 laws that said, nope, we no longer have to abide by the local planning commission's decision, and the state's going to take it over and come in and do it anyways, right? Our county board of supervisors fought against that, and that was rightly so. That was a big deal. But I mean, and that was good. But you fight that against, that was local control, sovereignty decision making that the state was going to take. Why don't you fight for elections in the same vein? It's bewildering. It really is.
So obviously, you know, this is something that if you were elected that you would really rally for, not just when it comes to Measure B, but in general, just using the county's time and energy to stand up to the state for when it tries to overstep initiatives that your constituents are asking for.
Or anything that the state's going to push back on a local control issue. You know, we have 58 counties in the state. Allegedly, 42 of them or so are rural in nature, such as Shasta, Butte, of course, also. We can get those other board of supervisors on, you know, collectively, whether it be class action or whatever, and we can share the burden. We can share the liability burden as far as having to hire lawyers and fight the state. We can share those costs. Just the other board members in the other counties have to be brave, and that's a hurdle. Because unfortunately, too many people don't want to fight the state. That's very sad, but it's the reality.
Let me ask you a little bit about your background. You're very knowledgeable about previous cases that are pertinent to kind of what you're looking to achieve here. What is your background and your education? Are you just self-educated on this sort of stuff because you're passionate about it?
Retired military police officer. So that's where I get the ability to read and interpret laws and regulations because I used to enforce them. Yeah. So and the important thing there is being able to find gray areas and loopholes. And lawyers are really good at that. And I tend to do the same thing. The resolution that I was the principal author of a resolution in 2023 that the then County Board of Supervisors passed to fight Senate Bill 2, which was further restricting concealed carry rights, okay? I was part of the local CRPA rifle pistol chapter, and I was the principal author of a resolution to the county, and Patrick Jones was on the board at the time. He loves guns, right? His family has a gun shop and all that. And so I helped write that, and it took a couple, 3 years, believe it or not. There was pushback. Again, really? Really? You don't want somebody to protect themselves when they leave their house? Are you kidding me? So we eventually got that passed. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing that happened. And
this was the one allowing county employees essentially to be able to have concealed carry rights, right?
It's related to, but not necessarily. That was kind of secondary. This was Senate Bill 2, and it's in effect, by the way. You cannot carry on city or county local government property.
And Senate Bill 2 has a ton.
And it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Again, 174 years, Haley. You could, if you had a concealed permit, you could carry on local local and city properties with a permit for 172 years.
Do you think SB2 was written as a response to a local entity making some rule change?
Yes, in fact, it's on your list that I gave you. Yeah, but the quick answer is yes. Okay, but what I'd like to do is just finish answering your question. I was also Cal Fire engineer, firefighter, EMT for 18 years. Also enforcing, that side of the house, right? Public resource code type stuff. And so, yeah, I've been doing it for a long time, just being able to read, interpret, the discernment on, was there a violation? If not, verbal warning, a written citation, whatever, right? I mean, I did it for a long time.
Yeah.
And as far as education, just a 2-year degree at Shasta College in fire technology.
Yeah.
So yes, most of it is self-taught. My constitutional values and tenets came to me well after I retired from the service, by the way. Even going through military police school, I got some Fourth Amendment training, right? Fifth Amendment training, and that's it. A little bit of First Amendment, right? Freedom of speech. But the big thing with law enforcement is the Fourth Amendment. So search and seizure, right? You better, if you're going to collect evidence, you better do it right, or you're going to get off with murder, right? And people have. Fifth Amendment, right to self-incrimination, Miranda warning, stuff like that. So I got very little training, even as a law enforcement officer, where I had the ability to detain and arrest people and take them to jail. I didn't get very, very good. I got most of my constitutional knowledge after I was retired. Yeah, so mostly self-taught.
Yeah, okay. Well, so continuing on with the earlier question I had asked you, the reasons that you're running, right?
Yeah.
We've covered Measure B, we've covered local pushback against the state. What else is a top priority to you?
Fiscal is bad. Now we're being retired, or I'm not retired Cal Fire. I started late at 30 years old, so when I had 18 years in when I left Cal Fire. And so I'm receiving a CalPERS pension, by the way. But the whole CalPERS system, it's a Ponzi scheme. It really is. In fact, 10 years ago, when I was still there, the CalPERS folks were telling us, current employees, we're just about ready to, the needle's about ready to tip from more people taking out of CalPERS than are putting in. That was 10 years ago. So I know we're past that now. It's similar to Social Security. When you have when more money's going out than it's coming in, it's going to be insolvent, right? And so we need to fix that. There's unfunded liabilities that we're paying for. They called it fund smoothing. Wow, what a flowery, soft term. It's like, okay, we're unfunded to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars, and now, in addition to your current liability for your current employees and your current retirees, we're now going to add another bill on top called unfunded liabilities via fund smoothing, and we're going to give you 30 years to pay it off. And this is an additional liability. And we're going to give you, that's how big the bill was, 30 years to pay it off.
Okay.
And we're about 12 years into it.
And
roughly.
this is what the county has taken on?
All
essentially
CalPERS,
the state.
CalPERS,
Yeah.
any city,
Yeah.
any water district, any county,
Okay.
all the state agencies, they're
So it's like a second loan to pay off these unfunded pensions,
horrible.
essentially.
Yeah, anybody that's a CalPERS
Yeah.
partner, client, whatever they
Right.
call them, oh, this is horrible. So what we need to do is we need to switch. We need to switch to, and that's called a defined benefit plan. We need to switch to a defined contribution plan similar to most private corporations, private businesses, right? Employee pays so much into an approved retirement system, and employer does matching or whatever. They do some kind of a formula. But there's no, right? And then of course it's subject to the stock market. I get it.
Yeah.
There's a problem there, but still, CalPERS is such a Ponzi scheme, and it's so easy. It's so easy to go back to the last 15 years of the CalPERS reports and see it as a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah. It's one of the first things when I became a reporter in Chico, and I remember speaking with the mayor of Chico at the time, and he was describing to me the situation the city was in. This was 10 years ago, and he was pretty terrified about what could be ahead. However, though, I look at people who give their lives to these really risky jobs, being a firefighter, being a police officer, and I think, who knows how many people would be willing to do that if it wasn't this deal of like, well, you and your spouse for the rest of your lives once you retire are taken care of as a thank you for sacrificing your
There
well-being.
there's always exceptions, right?
Yeah.
I said that earlier, right?
Yeah.
Gray areas, loopholes, exceptions, right? There can always be an exception
Yeah.
to reforming a retirement system. And again, maybe I'm a little biased because I'm a former firefighter, and I would, I did run towards danger instead of away,
Yeah.
but I had good training and good equipment. But yeah, I mean, when you leave for work and you might not come home that day, or you come home paralyzed for the rest of your life, yeah, maybe we talk about maybe some of those more dangerous positions, maybe they get a little more. But if you're just pushing driving a desk, we call it,
Yeah.
right?
Sure.
Do
Different
you
levels
really?
of retirement. Yeah.
Well, right. That's just the reality.
Yeah.
That's the reality. But it's not there. And we're paying roughly 20 to 30. I have to go back and look at the latest document I got. We're paying. County of Shasta is paying roughly 20 to 30 million a year in the unfunded liabilities.
So
That's bad. And so that's money we can't put into infrastructure. We can't can't build a new jail. That's a lot of money in a rural county like Shasta.
could the county opt out, though? Is that something that the county supervisors have the ability to do?
Right now, state law, I do not believe allows a public employer to opt out.
Okay, so this
We
would
can
be,
do this through the charter.
Okay,
That's the beauty of of us becoming a charter, right? It is governance by the people. It's called direct democracy. And we're already not following state law through our current charter, because everybody says you can't do it, it's against the law. We're doing it already. One of our charter points is a board of supervisor vacancy can be filled by the remaining board members. That is in direct violation of California Government Code 25060, which reads the governor shall appoint a board of supervisor vacancy. It says shall. But we're allowed to do that because it was passed by the voters and is put into our county charter. So we've got to run with our county charter. What we did not do, the Board of Supervisors started the charter, put it onto the ballot, voters voted for it. But what we should do, there's actually, in the government code, a charter county can have a citizen charter commission, and they're actually elected. The Citizen Charter Commission actually elected, unlike most other commissions and committees who are appointed by the board members, right? A planning commission,
Sure.
right? Commission on Aging, all that stuff. But the Citizen Charter Commission, in law, they're elected by the voters. That's a beautiful thing. And now we have the Citizen Charter Commission that meets regularly, puts suggestions together with the public's input. It's a Brown Act meeting, of course. And then that's put to the Board of Supervisors. Now, again, the citizens can go direct to this people like we did with Measure B, but this commission, they also can go to the Board of Supervisors and say, hey, here's some amendments that people would like. So let's write them up, put it on the ballot. So that's something that I think needs to happen very quickly. We're the 15th charter county. Fresno's looking to go charter right now, good for them. But we only have, I think, 2 things in our charter. No, we need to hit the ground running. We need to just build that charter very quickly. And if the people vote for it, it's local control, and it's a beautiful thing.
so I want to ask you, if you are elected, with the current board in place right now, do you feel like you will be able to work with the current members and that they would get on board with the plans that you have?
Well, all I can do is present things logically, reasonably, constitutionally, with the different, opinions and options, whatever the topic may be. And, they're going to do what they're going to do, these other board members. Their beliefs are in education and experience, they're all different.
Yeah.
And so, and what I will do is call for the ouster of Joe Larmore, County Council. He has led this current board down so many bad roads, it's not even funny. He needs to go. And we need to get a decent council that offers all options, all information to the Board of Supervisors, not just what Joe Larmore wants them to hear. But so the answer is, hey, all I can do is just try. Just try to be factual. And
You've said a few times that how important it is to, stay true to your values and to your moral code. Does that put you in a position where you think that you would be unwilling to compromise if there are certain issues that, hey, another group of supervisors are maybe pushing something that goes against what you believe? I mean, is there any sort of leeway? Do you have the willingness to work?
That's a case-by-case basis,
Yeah.
Again, I will be a fiscal hawk. I will be adhering to the Constitution. And again, I won't vote to actually take away your constitutional rights, as Kevin Cry has done twice. It's an affirmative vote to take away our constitutional rights. The first thing was the surveillance cameras, and the other one was, of course, trying to stop a petition. I certainly will not do that. Again, at a minimum, we have to hold what we have, our sovereignty rights and all that. At a minimum, we've got to hold it. But at a maximum, we need to get some of it back. We have to get some of it back. It's unfortunate we have the political climate at the state level, and with the governor that will just sign anything pretty much. But the supermajority in Sacramento, they don't like the little people. That's just the truth.
So I feel like that voters have gotten a pretty good idea of who you are and what you stand for. We have just about 5 minutes or so left at the most. Is there anything else that I didn't ask you about that you really value that you would prioritize?
So I have a very comprehensive website, GallardoForSupervisor.com. It's the number 4, GallardoForSupervisor.com. And there's so many things on there. And you can see I have a lot of paper here. I did not bring more paper because then it would just be covering the desk. But there's a lot of novel ideas that I have in there. Again, I work for all levels of government, local, state, and federal. And there's so many ideas that I have in there. I want to help fight property tax, where properties are actually seized and sold. I mean, that's egregious, especially if somebody has a fixed income, especially that. Again, right, there's always going to be some adjustments and molding of ideas, but I don't think government should be taking your property. I just don't. Put a lien on it. Property taxes, by the way, Florida is looking to get rid of property taxes altogether. Another Midwest state's trying to do that. And again, if we do something in our charter with the will of the people voting, then we can make some big changes. Let's change stop seizing properties for failure to pay property tax, right? Maybe just do the lien, let the lien sit on there until the property sells, whatever. I want to do a second grand jury. The California Constitution allows for a county to have multiple grand juries in place. And the one we have now, 90% of their work is already dictated by law. So they have very little time in their term to actually do new investigations. So we need a second grand jury that does nothing but look for waste, fraud, and abuse in government. Malfeasance, misfeasance, violations of law, illegal acts in office. We need a second grand jury. My gosh, I have so many
Grand jury
ideas.
rather than like maybe a study or something like the city of Reading
No, an
did?
actual grand jury that
Yeah.
has the power and authority to issue indictments for crimes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. My gosh, I just have so much stuff on there, and trying to recall it right now is a little tough, but it's all on my website, GallardoForSupervisor.com. A lot of novel ideas. NGOs, any taxpayer money coming in to nonprofits, non-governmental organizations. I would like to create a local ordinance so that that money is separated into a loan account, and the NGO, they still have full power to receive it and spend it, but that bank account, we make that bank account 100% transparent to the public, because now that money is nothing but taxpayer money in and out, and we make it, and those same entities have to come in and issue probably annual reports under oath, by the way, under penalty of perjury, and release all those documents. I think that is something that would be really key. There's just too much money going out and not a lot of accountability as to how it was spent, was it properly, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
That's another big one that I really like. And my friend Gary, who's also running against Chris Kellstrom, who you've had in here, Chris, he brought up the thought, he says, let's get away from district-based elections, because that's where the gerrymandering happens. And the city of Reading does what's called at-large elections.
Right.
And you know what? That's a darn good idea. Gary, I said, Gary, that's a great idea. Let's do at-large elections for the county, because even though people can't vote for me unless they're in District 1, if it was an at-large election, then anybody in the county could vote for me, regardless of where they lived, because I would only be one vote, but one vote can make or break something.
Be leaning on the charter, right? Because isn't that state
Yeah.
law that you need to have district if you're over a certain population size?
Yeah, so the charter, we could do that via charter also. We may even be able to do that via local ordinance. I don't know yet, but let's go to at-large elections instead of district-based elections. I thought that was a great idea. But so many ideas. You just have to check
Yeah.
the website. There's a lot of ideas. And again, it all comes from my background working for all levels of government. You know, okay, this, you know, we can fix this at this level, we can fix that at that level. And it's because I've done it, you know?
Yeah.
And so there's just a lot of information. But I want to say, I love this format. All too many local media, you know, affiliates, legacy media it's called. They screen, they edit, they just, you know, they only want to print what they think you want to hear or what they want you to hear. And so I love this format, and I really encourage other local media to do something similar.
Well, thank
I think
you.
it's
Yeah,
very
I
fair.
mean, I love the fact that I want our viewers to, you know, our viewers are voters, right? And people should know who they're voting for. So I really appreciate you coming out and your transparency and letting us get to know who you are.
Thank you.
All
I
right, thanks
appreciate
so much
it.
for being here.
Thank you so much.
All right, cool. Thanks for listening today. I decided to offer this podcast after enough of you let me know that you wanted a deeper dive into certain stories than you get on our TV broadcasts. We elect certain people to represent our voice, but who are they really? My hope is that this podcast answers that question. I love your feedback, and I want to know who you'd like to hear from next. Just fill out that comment section and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or Spotify.